Hello, Harry Tangye here. Former police officer from April, 30 years frontline, shifts, the whole lot. So hopefully I'm here to give the police side of an argument, which often arrives in the media, which I feel is very much one-sided argument, because of course the police can't defend their position or even explain it sometimes. And sometimes we vent our anger on the frontline police officers that we see the carefully edited video from. An example I would suggest is yesterday with the veteran who was arrested, which looked quite aggressive. It looked like from a snatch squad at the Dover protests. And these were the anti-immigration protesters who some were, you could argue, were extreme right-wing, and there were some others who were just genuinely concerned about the levels of immigration coming into the country. So there's an extreme to everything, and because I wasn't there, I don't know the variance in those numbers. There were also demonstrations, of course, saying that we should allow, I believe, from Antifa, and that we should allow more immigration through and protect those coming across the channel. So initially, it looks like quite an aggressive video. I could immediately see, as a public order officer in the past myself, I could immediately see that that was a decision made from above, so to speak. When I say above, I mean just probably the planner on the day who could see all the video footage and see who the instigators were. And where this gent is getting on in years, he actually looks quite fit and healthy. And if you see his own live stream, every other word is effing this, effing that. And he's very much, even though he's not threatening the officers, believe me, if it was you there that he was shouting at with the effing this and effing that, and you effing dare do this, that and the other, and we're gonna effing this, that and the other, then you would take that as being exceedingly aggressive and oppressive. And those officers just standing there making a line, and they're being accused of all sorts of things, which is usual, because it's usually that police officers they're the position to vent all the frustrations of everyone's lives, day-to-day lives. There's a police officer, there's the authority. Let's have a go at him. And it's not him, it's not Mark Smith, who lives at number 3 Arcadia Street. It is the police uniform. But I say that's not really good enough, because it is Mark Smith from number 3 Arcadia Street. So I can see really what's happened here is looking at the gent's live stream himself, and I understand on Google that he was in 70s. Well, to be honest, he looked a very young 60, and he's clearly very fit, and he's very active. And some people get mixed up. They say, well, you shouldn't treat someone like that in their 70s like that. Well, you deal with them proportionately and when it's necessary. If they need arresting to prevent an escalation of something, and they're committing offences, which he clearly was, then it doesn't matter if they're 70. What you don't do is rugby tackle him to the ground, but what they've done perhaps, if someone is an 88-year-old, for example, but what I can see is very quickly the back rows come out, grab the guy and pulled him through. So there's no opportunity to snatch him back and become this tussle, to become a big fight over this person. So it's professional, it's quick, and I would be very surprised if either he or the officers had any injuries during that. So sometimes policing isn't pretty, but why? Why did they do that? And I think because, and why, when the comparison is, well, why didn't you do that to BLM? And why didn't you do it to the BLM, Oxford BLM leader, I believe she is, who is shouting and saying that this, that and the other? And because she didn't have much of an audience, because it was probably better at that point to leave her alone because she looked ridiculous. She was some sort of hysterical woman running around, getting all sort of excited, and there were some men looking at her as if not feeling a bit awkward, thinking, well, I need to sort of follow her because she's the leader, but I'm feeling uncomfortable about this too. And they look ridiculous, quite frankly, so leave them alone. because it gives them credibility if the police pile in and arrest them. The difference with the Dover protests, because there weren't that many protesters, it seemed, especially when he was arrested, was the Dover, the gates of Dover. If that had escalated, and that's why there was a big police presence, if that had escalated to the point where it blocked off the channel for our trade and industry to leave Dover, that would have been serious trouble. That would have been serious trouble for not only for companies, but for the country, losing even more money. And these protesters, once the numbers gain, go on forever and ever and ever. And then once they are actually escalated, that becomes a real problem. So it was to nip it in the bud, to clear the main instigator, the troublemaker, if that's what he was seen as, no matter what heroic stuff he may have been involved with before. But it's to get that done with minimal proportionality, to get it done with proportionality, and is it necessary? The proportionality was, I doubt he was injured at all, and I doubt the officers were injured, and it stopped him on a loud hailer shouting effing this, effing that, and winding everyone up. That's how I see it. And I don't expect everyone to agree with me at all. And people, I get accused, well, you're an ex-copper, so you're going to defend the coppers all the time. I think, on balance to that, I think politics got involved with the Black Lives Matter protests in London, with the horse charges and things. Officers were exposed there, and I say they were exposed by the bosses, because the bosses they were looking at the bigger picture and the political side of things. And I think you've got to be very careful when you do that with police officers' lives. And the police got a bit of a battering, and they were chased down the road. And I couldn't criticise the leaders in the Met who made those decisions at that point anymore. Couldn't criticise them anymore. That was awful to see. And it needed to be done robustly, without favour nor fear. And but they also realised that with a bigger protest in London, it soon escalates and you have rioting and you get London wrecked. We know, I think it was 2011 riots. So, but it's how much you held to ransom. And so that's the issue there as well. It's a very difficult position the Met have compared to other forces, I think, because it soon escalates, and it's very much, it's all on camera, isn't it, with the Met in particular. It's all on, the media are there. But anyway, I think things will probably change quickly now that the newspapers were blocked, so they don't like that. So I think their stance will change very quickly now, which probably isn't a bad thing for the police, you could say, because they're quite influential, the media, aren't they? But there we go. Everyone's got their own frustrations and angers. We all have them. That's just what I can see from the police side of things. Thank you.